Go ahead, move. I'm so good. I benevolent. Yes, you have my permission to move. Two things, and then I actually really want to turn the floor over to you guys and respond to you. One is that Carl and I were talking while we were gone, and we know we get a lot of questions about how do I know when the fear is gone? And I say, if you've looked, the fear is gone, and you don't have to worry about it. It might not be immediately obvious to you, but the consequences of having lost the fear will show up over time, and you should keep an eye on your relationship with your own life. But really, there is a way to tell that the fear is gone that is a little more concrete than that. If you find yourself in situations that normally, and it doesn't have to be anything big, but that normally would bring up a neurotic reaction. What I mean by a neurotic reaction is a reaction that makes you feel bad. Makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, or it's, like you're trying to fix something or whatever. But it makes you feel bad, makes you feel a little queasy. And you know what I'm talking about. Situations come up and there will be some reaction appear, and you feel kind of queasy about it. But you have to stick with it. That's what I mean by a neurotic reaction. So, if you find yourself in a situation that would normally give rise to such a neurotic reaction, and it doesn't appear, you can be sure that the fear is gone. And the more you pay attention to that, to situations in which normally you would have a not very healthy reaction, if you continue to pay attention to that, you will see that those reactions over time just begin not to show up. They're just not there. Now, since it is a disappearance, as I've said, it's not something you'll notice unless you're watching for it. And the only way you can watch for it is if you just kind of have the intention of noticing when you're in a situation that would produce it. Now, you won't notice it all the time, but from time to time you will. And when that happens, and if the expected, anticipated reaction does not appear, then you can be sure that you're done. You're not done with the recovery, but you're done with the trap, the fear itself. Very simple, just like that. The second thing that I wanted to say briefly, in the time this morning, when I was going into great detail about what I did and where I did it and how I did it and what the actual acts and movements and so forth consisted in, and how the fact that I did it that way doesn't mean that that's going to be of any use to you. The fact that anybody did it their particular way doesn't mean it's going to be of any particular use to you. The bottom line of that, which I intended to get to at the end, and somehow in the excitement of the break and all of that, it disappeared, is this. And this is really important. I really want you to listen to this seriously, if you please will. This is very important. This might be the most important aspect of doing it right that there is. You are absolutely on your own here. Taking this act, doing this action, is entirely yours. You have got to find your way for yourself. Now, the fact that we have had the opportunity to speak about all the things that we have spoken about will give you the scent of it. You know, the sense of it and the scent of it. But you've got to hunt it down for yourself. Nobody can tell you, and I'll tell you why, too. This isn't just a mystical thing, you know. There's a practical reason why this is so. And that practical reason is because every single personality on the face of the planet is unique. Everyone. Entirely unique. The way that your personality and your mental makeup operates, the characteristics of it and so forth, are all yours. They are entirely local to you. Now there are some, of course, there are some features that are shared by a number of different personalities, a number of different psychologies. In fact, there have been for many, many years in many, many formats and many, many contexts been noticed that there are a limited number of types of character. The Enneagram says 9, astrology says 12, other people say other things. There's a lot of systems of identifying specific character types that are consistent throughout the species. And that's valid. I mean, it's actually the case. You can see that. You know, you see people and that's one of those guys, or that, you know, that you immediately know that there's something about somebody very quickly just because of the fact that they exhibit traits of a certain character type. But within each character type, every single personality is unique. The way in which your psychology has appeared and developed and formed and evolved over the course of your life is entirely idiosyncratic. It has to do with the way in which your life is unfolded moment to moment, and the way in which and what was available in that moment to latch onto as a way of relating to the arising circumstance. So every psychology is entirely unique. And that's what makes it actually impossible for me to say, okay, now here's what you do. You sit there, you close your eyes, you watch your breath, and you count your breath. I can do that. But I can't say, okay, here's what you do. You sit there and you put your finger on your nose and you point to your chest and you say magic words and turn your attention there. You've got to find your own way. You have got to find your own way. There's nobody that can lead you there. I have some facility at showing you what it is that you're looking for, but you've got to find it for yourself. Nobody can tell you. And that's the reason why, for me, I was looking at the heart center. For Mark in Atlanta, he was turning his eyes inside out. For somebody else, they were looking at something else. And somebody else, they're looking at something else. So if you try to find some guidance as to the exact point of entry or the way to access the sense of yourself, some specific instruction in that regard, you're in the wrong place. This is entirely a matter of self-reliance. In fact, self-reliance is not only the means, but it's also part of the outcome. So I wanted to make that clear, and that's the point I was trying to make this morning. And you're on your own. I mean, it really is the case. And it sounds, you know, especially in some circles, that sounds like a cop-out or bad news or, you know, whatever. But it's good news. I swear to God, it's good news.
I swear to God, it's good news.
Yeah. Hallelujah, sister. Okay? So, who wants to talk? Who wants to ask? Who wants to contend? Who wants to come to the mic? Okay. And you can come to the mic, you can come here, it's up to you entirely.
Sit next to you.
Hi, good to see you again.
I just felt like I wanted to check something out with you.
Okay.
I've had several experiences that are about being seen, and one of them was with Gangaji and being at a retreat with her, and it was the first retreat that I was with her. And actually, it was funny because people were lining up at the door to get in to see Gangaji and sit up close, and being a newbie, I laughed at that, thought how silly. And then about 3 days later, I was lining up
There
at the
you
door.
were.
So
I'm familiar with Gangaji.
So one of the things that happened in relationship to that, wanting to be up closer, was I had a longing to be seen by her. And was a few days into the retreat, but she actually looked at me and saw me. And I felt really seen, and the longing fell away. So I've just been thinking about this part of me that I'm looking for and that I see the me. There's actually something similar to what I experienced with Gangaji. And there's a deep relaxation when I connect with myself that way. And I just kind of wondered what your perspective would be on how it is that sometimes we long to be seen by others other than ourselves.
The longing to be seen by others is a symptom. And it's a misdirection, it's a misdirection of what's really wanted there, which is you want to see yourself. That's the fact. And the longing to be seen by others is just a way of projecting that outward.
I see.
Okay? Now, having said that, it's also true that someone who actually is free of fear and much of the symptoms have disappeared, they will see you truly. You know? I mean, they don't see Pat and the gray hair, and they see you because they're familiar with you because you are the same as them. But the projection of that outward is neurotic and a symptom of the fear because it doesn't ever occur to you that you can do anything on your own, especially not something so profound as that.
Seeing myself.
You know, you're just helpless. You're a helpless and flawed human being who needs somebody to see you
Outside myself.
and give you confirmation of your existence. But it certainly is a kind of a metaphor for what we're talking about, except it's you that has to do it. And you can. You probably already have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, John, I have a counseling practice.
Oh?
A counseling practice. Okay. And I do a lot of work with people with subpersonalities. And often I'm inviting them to be in a part of themselves that gets hidden. And it's usually the form of a child. And what I realized is that sometimes being seen, there's a desire not to be seen. And it can be really anxiety-producing to be seen. And I wonder if sometimes when we start to look at ourselves, if it doesn't bring up some...
Oh, it brings out great anxiety. Somebody was saying something just yesterday, Eva, right? It can produce a great burst of anxiety. You know, you're doing something that's kind of forbidden. It's an acknowledgement of the fact that there's something that needs to be done, and it's something profound and different from anything that's ever been done. It's acknowledging the ineffectiveness of all your good work. trying to shape for yourself a persona that will be survivable and good, true and clean and unhurt and so forth and so on. So, yeah. And that anxiety, because you're going against the grain, and it can cause a great burst of anxiety.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a confirming sign.
Well, it's become exciting to me to add the potential in my work to invite the people that I'm doing the subpersonality work with to actually add to that component their looking at themselves, finding themselves.
Oh, yes. And I would really like to hear from you how that transpires. You know, David, the person I was talking about yesterday, the psychoanalyst, ex-prison warden, now a champion of truth, beauty, and the American way. David has a practice, and his practice is with a lot of ex-convicts and a lot of others really wounded psyches, right? And he is trying to find a way to integrate this into his practice as well. So there might come a time that the two of you might even have some conversation with each other and be helpful.
That'd be great.
Helpful
I'd like
to each
that.
other, you know?
Yeah, it's a natural next step
It is.
in doing subpersonality work. It's just right there to be asked. I often will, within the personality, bring forth an aspect, usually a more responsible aspect of the personality, to be there for this part that is vulnerable and hidden. But it's still there's separation.
Yeah, that's a tactic, and
It is.
And you know, some of us have been more effective in deploying tactics that kind of maintain the status quo and don't rock the boat too bad.
Yeah.
You're probably one of them. I don't think I was very good at that. I mean, if you look at my history. But there are people who are better at dealing with living with the fear, fear burning in them. And it's better to be, it certainly is more effective to be rational for a moment than it is to be irrational if you're trying to do something as powerful as this and as useful as this.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. And I was hoping that I might find that there are other people in my community. So if they show up, I hope that you'll find a way to help us connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, right. And like it's, as I said, there's David and there's some other psychotherapists and psychiatrists and so forth that are coming forward and being involved in this work. And it would be really good to be able to, should the circumstances actually call for it, to be able to provide a venue in which that kind of thing could be, information about that and discussions about that could be shared among the practitioners.
I'd really like that.
And we have, we have the technology to do that, and that's part of what we want to do is to bring people in this context together, right? Not in some outside context, but in this context.
Well, you can know that I want to be, my name is out there for anybody who wants to participate.
And and I'll mention that to David too. We'll be talking to David Friday probably. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Next. Here you go.
Now, my only question is, am I going to let my fear of life stop me at this microphone and just come up there?
It's my great pleasure to see you here.
I'm not a con, and there isn't anybody watching on TV for me. They're not going to come and get me.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about the fear of life, right? I came up here and had a little short conversation. You stopped me dead in my tracks. Wait a minute, you're not on the microphone nor on camera, and we're not helping anybody by having this discussion off the microphone and off the camera.
I kind of remember that.
I'm a labor and delivery nurse.
Okay.
So you
Wow.
say that the fear of life
That's
comes
right at the
comes from that birth experience and that trauma.
that's my opinion. That's a theory.
It's a theory.
A hypothesis, right? That it comes is sure.
Mm-hmm.
The rest is not entirely sure.
I've watched I don't know how many birth traumas
Yeah, right.
in the 10 years I've been a labor and delivery nurse. A lot.
I imagine.
So, I mean, if birth is trauma, maybe trauma happens in utero. There's
Yes,
pregnancy-induced hypertension that kills the placenta and starves the baby of the nutrients it needs, and maybe the baby knows.
Oh, I'm sure that it has an effect on the psychology of the baby. The babies. My opinion is that the baby, that the fetus at a certain point is self-conscious in the womb.
Yeah.
It's just slumbering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that we have traumas, and then we have comfort, and throughout our lives we have a trauma, and we have a comfort, and we have a trauma, and we have a comfort. And I said to you something about that I think that the fear of life comes from having a need that we want filled. When we're an infant, all of our fulfillment of all of our needs comes from external sources. I can't change my own diaper when it's messy or soiled. I can't feed myself. I can't heat myself warm, make sure my temperature is okay. I can't do any of those things for myself. So I look to the world around me to do it for me. And I think that if somebody who's around me does it for me, that I feel secure. Just like I think that in birth trauma, if you put the baby right on the mom's chest, you do the kangaroo care, they don't feel like they're going to die anymore. That birth trauma. I think that kangaroo care is teaching that baby to figure out that it's not going to die from that trauma. And maybe that helps to keep that baby from learning the fear of life at birth if they do kangaroo care. I might be wrong, but that's my thought. And I think that if the mother is around and makes sure the baby is always fed and always changed and always warm and things like that, you might stave off the baby from learning the fear of life throughout infancy. But I think the minute the baby starts to realize that I have a need and I don't know how the hell to get it met, that's when we learn the fear of life.
I think that I think that you're assuming that the fear of life is a psychological event, and it's not. It's not like because of the circumstances that are beyond my control, this fear grows in me as a psychological characteristic. The fear comes in a moment of terror. Now, when that moment of terror occurs is who knows when. Mm-hmm. But the fear comes in a moment of terror, panic that just strikes unexpectedly. And it almost instantaneously dies out into a background of, a murmur of anxiety and a readily accessible experience of anxiety in the face of circumstances that come up, like there's discomfort, and then there's comfort. Now, the discomfort is not, the discomfort is just in the nature of the life and the way the life is. Like, for example, you get hungry. That's discomfort. Mm-hmm. And then there's comfort, which is food coming to you, whether you're an infant or an adult. The comfort that settles the problem of hunger is food. The discomfort of hunger was never due to the fear of life. And it never produced any fear of life.
No.
It produced a desire for food.
The fear of life came when you figured out that you couldn't find food somewhere.
And
whether you couldn't meet your need for yourself
listen to me for a second. The assumption here, which is radically different from what I'm suggesting, the assumption here is that the fear comes into being as a result of some psychological mechanism that's playing within the already developed personality. The psychological mechanisms are effects of the fear of life. They are not causes of anything. The psychological mechanisms are effects, symptoms of the fear of life. The fear of life that I speak of is much more primal than that. It is prior to the development of the psychology. It's prior to the experience of life in a way that would produce that, that kind of thing. Now, it's certainly the case that if you're hungry and can't find food, you're going to be really pissed off and you're going to be really angry, or you're going to be really scared, or you're going to be really one thing or the other. What I'm saying is that that event and the way it plays out appears within a psychology that already is existing within the context that assumes that life is not to be trusted. Treacherous. And furthermore, it really doesn't matter.
Right. And I agree with you. It doesn't matter once you've found the avenue and how to escape from it, from looking at myself.
Right.
But I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I'm a nurse, but I'm a teacher. I'm not really a nurse. Yeah. I'm a nurse in teacher in nurse's clothing or something like that.
Well, you can't teach this.
Well, you're teaching this.
No, I'm not.
Why are you here?
I'm not teaching anything. I am suggesting to you that the cause of all your misery is an affliction that came upon you before you even know what was happening. And I am telling you that the way to cure that is to find out for yourself how to get a direct experience of what it feels like to be you. I'm not teaching you anything about anything. I am telling you, look, here's what I see to be the case, and this will fix it. Right?
And I think the other thing that I'm suggesting is that as soon as I look at myself and I realize that space inside of me that's never been hurt by anything before, that has never been missing food, that has never been missing water, that's never been missing temperature, that's never been missing anything, and I see that self, that me, that I, that you, that it allows me freedom to know that my needs can be met. And then that's what makes the fear of life disappear. Because I all of a sudden know that I don't have to look at external sources to meet my needs. They can either help me meet my needs, or I can meet my needs for myself. And I think that's one thing that I learned before I came here, is that I didn't need anybody to help me meet my own needs.
That's ridiculous. Of course you need people. How could you do without people? Who grows your food? Who delivers it to your table?
Well, true.
I
can put a garden in or whatever. What I'm saying is...
But you don't.
But I don't. But what I'm saying is that I don't need anybody to help hold my hand in figuring out how to get those needs met. I don't need my mom to change my diaper anymore.
No, you don't. But you don't even when you're afflicted with the fear of life. I mean, even afflicted with the fear of life, although I wasn't very skillful at living it, I knew how to find guns, and I knew how to... actually, I'm a machinist by trade. I'm a pretty good machinist, too, although I can't say that anymore because I haven't been in the trade for a long time. Mm-hmm. But even as crazy as I was able to feed myself. I was able to find some way to put things together, to get from one side of the country to the other and so forth. Yeah.
So the biggest need that I've had over the last 2.5 years of my relationship with Rick has been, I feel like I'm not, I've gone through tons of things in my life. I've been a meth addict. I've been an alcoholic. I've, done all kinds of things that I've felt were habitually putting shit on myself, I'd like to call it. And if you want to edit me later, great.
That's the neurotic reactions I speak of.
But I've been dumping shit on myself.
Yes,
and right now,
right.
I don't have meth in my life. I don't have, alcoholism in my life, although I occasionally, have a drink. But there's still something left in me that is a need that I haven't been meeting for myself. And that is that I want to feel healthy, And I keep telling Rick, I'm not getting it here. And I want him to help me meet that need by doing yoga with me. And he doesn't want to. And I can't drag him and get him to.
Even feeling healthy will not take that away. Now, listen to me. Listen
No, but
to
I
me.
feel like I can meet that need now.
Well, you can, yes, of course
And I
you
think
can.
that you've helped me figure that out.
I think so too. But meeting it isn't going to solve the problem.
Well,
Now, look at me, okay? 15 years ago, I stumbled upon the natural state.
mhm.
I forget how many years, I can't keep track. 10 years later, I'm smoking cigarettes and weigh 240 pounds. I'm free of the fear of life. And most of the psychological mechanisms that I use to dump shit on myself have disappeared. But I'm still 240 pounds and smoking Camel cigarettes till dawn, watching Captain Kangaroo. I couldn't help it. Okay? Now, something fell away. 10 years after I stumbled on the natural state. Something that had not yet fallen away, fell away, and cigarettes went away. Something else fell away, and I found myself deeply interested in food and in understanding how to be healthy with food. And that was an interest that I never had before. Never. I mean, I just wasn't interested in it. And as a result of that, you know, I started paying attention to what I ate. I started eating healthy and so forth and so on. But that was not like something that appeared to me as a solution to my problem. It was just a change that occurred within my psychology that produced interest in that rather than a shunning of that as saying something bad about me. Like, if I am fat and unhealthy and so forth and so on, then I'm worthless. Now, there was still some psychological apparatus there that was shunning the whole idea of having interest in healthy living. Exercise, I never exercised. Something in there was shunning that, right? I didn't know it. All I knew was that here I was happy. I was free of all the stupidity that had afflicted me for all my life. And then suddenly, without warning, for no reason whatsoever, that whatever it was that was preventing that fell away. Mm-hmm. And I became naturally interested in living healthily, exercising, eating right, cooking my own food, and so forth and so on. That didn't solve anything except maybe give me some extra time here to talk to you. There was no present misery that was associated with that. It was just the case. I wasn't all that concerned about it at all.
Well, I think that that's probably true. I think that, I don't know, it's been profound for me in the last 24 to 48 hours.
I know
it's like
it has,
all of
and
a
you'll
sudden,
see. Yes.
I'm not scared anymore
Yes, ain't
of
that
what it
something?
is that I feel like I need to do. And it isn't that I need to shove Rick into the nearest yoga class
That's right.
in order to get me healthy.
That's
You know,
right.
what it is that I need to feel like I can do what it is I need to do. And as soon as the fear is gone, which is, it feels like, I don't know, it feels like it's gone.
It's gone.
I don't, if I have to leave him to go do my yoga, because I had to leave my first husband to get away from cigarettes, and I had to leave my, you know, and I had to move from northern Utah to southern Utah to get away from meth. You know, I felt like I always had to leave.
Yes,
and he
I
says,
know.
you know, I don't have to go live at the yoga retreat to do yoga and eat Ayurvedically for a year to finally have that habit. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't know. But what I know is I don't have any fear that's stopping me from doing whatever it is that I need to do in order to get there.
Can I get a bump?
And then when I'm done doing that, I have this dream, you know, of this big yoga retreat kind of place where I can do some yoga. I can bring some kids in, you know, these kids that parents think that they need these antidepressants and, you know, let's give him a little riddle. Let's give him a little speed to keep him from speeding around the room when he needs to be studying. He needs to like chop wood and carry water, you know? Get that kid so tired that he doesn't have any energy left to be bouncing off the walls. So, I mean, I want to do all of these
I know
things
you
and
do.
I want to
Now-
help you.
And now,
like whatever.
now, what I suggest you do is see how this unfolds.
Yeah. Don't
Okay.
leave Rick tomorrow. Wait for a little while.
Well, no, I said see how it unfolds. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm telling you, just see how this unfolds
Yeah.
and stay in touch with me. Let me know how you're doing, okay? I'm really interested in
I'm
this.
glad you quit smoking.
Oh, me too.
And I hope that I'm right behind. I think maybe, when did you quit smoking?
2006.
I was a little ahead of you. I quit smoking in 2002 because I went to nursing school and I couldn't tell people don't smoke when I smoked. I go into somebody's room. Here's the smoking cessation paperwork and I reek. Come on. It's like you said earlier, you said yesterday, I'm going to teach you. Who the hell am I? Anyway, until I have any idea. Anyway. It's been pretty profound the last 48 hours.
I can see that. I can't tell you how happy I am that you came.
Can I have a hug?
You can have a hug.
I can't or can?
You can. You can always have a hug.
Careful.
Oh. Stay in touch, okay? And watch. Just watch.
Okay, and I want to talk to you more later about where the fear of life really comes from, because I think I have an idea, and maybe it isn't exactly birth trauma, And if we can learn where it comes from, you're not going to go out and teach, kids this message, a
Sure.
4-year-old.
Oh,
but
yes.
if you
In fact, there are people within this community who are trying to understand just exactly how to approach children. And my idea of how to approach children is just straightforward and tell the truth.
But if we can also help to stave off when that fear of life actually comes, if you can buy into my theory at all, then
So
maybe
far
we
not.
can wait a little bit longer. I don't know, maybe not. One of these days.
But we'll see. Keep in touch and watch. You're amazing, Eva. Wow. That takes my breath away. Who's next? Anybody?
Tough act to follow.
Hmm?
It's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, right. Yes, Rick. Aha. There we go. This is starting to look like one of those TV shows, right?
No chair throwing.
Hello, Rick.
I appreciate you being our relationship counselor.
I'm afraid I'm not that.
Let's see. First of all, I just want to say thank you for doing this. And,
You're welcome.
And it's been very helpful for me and I think for Eva and for everyone. I kind of wanted to talk about this point of because Eva and I have had this talk about the looking and whether or not anything else is has anything to do with it. And for me, I've done a lot of things to try to improve myself, self-improvement and trying to lose weight and exercise and do all these things as kind of like a path to peace and satisfaction, and none of it has resulted.
Yeah, none of it's productive.
Yeah, and to me, when I first kind of, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I started into Buddhism, and then it's kind of evolved into Advaita, and then finally coming to this. To me, this is the only thing that resonates with me that can have any overall effect on my experience of life.
I agree.
And I have bad habits. I'm lazy. I play video games. I don't exercise as much as I should. I've tried to combat those tendencies, and they still happen. And I've kind of given up on trying to fight those things.
I think that's a good thing.
And I feel like whenever I do have an ability to direct my attention somewhere, that it should be at this, and that's my goal. And I guess I just wanted to hear your opinion on that and whether or not you think I need to do yoga. And tell her.
And if you say you shouldn't do yoga, can I come up here? Let's talk together.
Turn this into Dr. Phil, right?
Jerry Springer. No, but aside from the yoga and
Yoga's not going to hurt you.
Right.
Yoga can only be helpful. It can't hurt you.
I agree.
Okay. Now, whether or not you're capable of doing yoga, and I don't mean physically, but psychologically capable of doing yoga, is another question entirely, which I can't possibly have any insight into. I tell you, if you can do yoga, that it's a good thing, and it'll improve your overall health and even improve, it'll bring about some sense of well-being, even in the face of the other array of psychological craziness that may be still playing.
And I understand that, and I think that's true with a number of things.
Right.
And to me, I'm not. I guess I want to say that it's not important. That type of well-being isn't really even important to me. It feels like there's this knot, this question, this core mistake that I'm making, just moment to moment, that results in this suffering, and that I want to figure out what that is, and anything else is beside the point, like you say.
If you continue looking, all of those matters will be resolved in time. There's no predicting when or how. The whole kind of argument, right, that this is more important than that, and that if I'm going to be doing something, I want to be doing this rather than that, that may or may not be some kind of psychological mechanism that appears in order to justify your continuing to follow insane ways of living. Okay? I don't know. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know anything about that stuff. But I can say, in a sense, I am a psychologist. I mean, I'm interested in the way the mind operates and so forth. But I can't know. It may be that there's some psychological thing running that, as I said, prevents you that gives you justification for not doing things that you know you should do. And I'm really familiar with not having a lot of reasons not to do things that I knew I should be doing. Okay? But you're right. If that is the case, I can't suggest anything to you that could possibly put an end to that except to keep looking. See, it's very plain to me that the mind itself is mechanical. That all of the things that come and go as the mind, which, by the way, I use mind and life as the same thing. Mind, life are the same thing to me. What was I saying? Mechanical. It's all mechanical. The only thing within the mind that's not mechanical is your ability to focus your attention. That's something that seems to be within our capability to do something about. Everything else we try to do something about by creating new structures that somehow mitigate or negate the old structures, but it's just a new neurotic, mechanism in play. If you can overcome whatever it is that, if it is the case that there's something playing that allows you to justify not doing something like yoga, which is a pretty simple thing, and and has benefits far exceeding the amount of effort you have to put into it. if that could be the case, that you're fielding justifications for not doing that, then see if you can see that to be the case, and go ahead and do it anyway. But whether you do or not, the mechanism that's produced that whole array of neurotic behavior is not going to go away except by the looking. The looking is what is the medicine that makes that go away. I suspect the fear is already gone. You see, it's like I said, the fear is gone. It doesn't take forever for the fear to go. It's not a big old deal. It's the effects that linger. And we are well advised to be patient with ourselves as this process unfolds, and it can be difficult and complicated and yada, 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 as I've said all along. Keep looking. That's one thing that I can tell you you're doing right. Keep looking. If you find that you have the space within you and the will within you to attend to things that will be helpful to your health and well-being, I mean physically, then by all means try to do that. And if you can't do it, it's okay. It's okay. If it doesn't happen and you can't make it happen, that's okay. It has nothing to do with you. It's entirely the momentum of this of these effects, these symptoms of the fear that have appeared. But you're right about one thing. The only thing that's going to bring an end to it all in the end is the looking. That's all. And in regard to all the other attempts that have been made to clean the slate for human beings, the spiritual, religious, philosophical, and so forth, in most cases they have pretty much come to the same conclusion, only without understanding what the conclusion was that they came to, thinking it to be something else. I think, for example, especially in the area I'm most familiar with, is a certain amount of Western philosophy and Upanishadic wisdom teachings. That's what my greatest familiarity with these matters. And in the case of the Upanishadic wisdom teaching, I think this is what they were trying to get at all along. You see, I don't think this is a dismissal of 5,000 years of effort on our part, despite the fact it's produced so little results. I think it's the fulfillment of that. It's exactly what they were trying to get to and unable to do so. So, I think you should look. I think you should do whatever you can to maintain your health and maintain the health of your relationship to the extent that you're capable of doing that. But you have to understand that you're afflicted with a whole suite of symptoms, symptomatic disabilities, and that direct assault on those things does nothing except create a reactive response to the assault.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It's like whack-a-mole.
Right? Yeah, right, exactly. So keep looking, do the best you can, and everything will turn out right. And keep in touch with me. Let me know how you're doing.
Well,
okay?
Thank you, John.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks.
God, yes, everybody quit smoking and start doing yoga. I think that would be, I would love to see that happen, really. I'd love to see that happen. Oh, well, I'd like to see peace on earth. I'd like to see everybody happy and fed and taken care of. I'd like to see disease eradicated. I'd like to see all that stuff. I'd like to see us go to Mars. I'd like to see, yeah, well, a lot of things I'd like to see. What I'd mostly like to see is an end to the fear of life in the human species. Because we are fantastic. This species, this arising of this particular species in this place is fantastic. It's unbelievable that human beings are unbelievable, what we can do. I mean, look at what human beings have done over the 80,000 years that we have been Homo sapiens, despite the affliction of the fear of life and all of its its sanity and psychological disability. Just look at what we've done. We've got 7 billion people, most of whom are fed. Not enough, but most of whom are fed. Most of whom have housing. We have learned how to preserve life in human bodies that have run out of the ability to continue to be alive. Like Dick Cheney, for example, the man without a pulse. Right? I mean, and we've done all of this shackled with this madness that we have. We have created such amazing, beautiful art. Look at Shakespeare. My God, Shakespeare. How could that possibly occur? Shakespeare. Imagine what it would be if this weight were gone from us. Okay.
Well, it might, just in passing, I mean, some of the great art and literature and everything.
Right, our expressions of...
it might be the fear of life that's driving that too.
Right. I think it is, for the most part, right? But the fear of life that produces that art, if the fear is gone, that same energy will go to something. The same energy, the same capability, the same capacity that can produce such startling communications as Shakespeare and some of the visual artists and music and things. Music, Beethoven, look at Beethoven. My God, where'd that come from? But that same energy will go to something else. Perhaps art, perhaps not art, but it'll go to something.
Maybe just lotus eating.
Maybe lotus eating. I doubt that. We don't say it. Look at Eva. Does she look like a lotus eater? Does she seem like a lotus eater to you?
Okay, I have something else to say. I can't say it all the time. You guys all want to talk.
Let's see who else.
Okay.
Yes.
Something you just said reminded me of
Mark,
something,
right?
but I forgot it. Yeah, Mark. I just wanted to bring up something I mentioned to a couple of people earlier, and it might be of some use to various people here. When I was outside earlier, I experienced a nostalgic moment with the smell of some earth nearby, which brought me back in time. I couldn't figure out for a moment what, and then I remembered digging worms for fishing. And I instantly had one of those aha moments of self-recognition, realizing I could still be digging those worms. And same person's here today. I just thought it was kind of interesting and a nice way to walk around, especially in nature, and realize that you can bring these thoughts back. The other thing that I wanted to mention, is my voice any different today?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I can't tell. I mean, I don't remember.
That's okay. I sort of remembered, and I sort of feel it. Something you said yesterday caused me some anxiety. Surprise. You said anxiety is a sign of life. And I have had more than my fair share of anxiety recently. I'm sure we've all had our share of anxiety in our lives. And I went back. It was lovely. Some folks invited me to join them. We went down and had dinner, and I'm thinking about this anxiety in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, ugh, if this is life, is this really what I want? Got up this morning, had a little of that anxiety. And just prior to leaving to come here, I had an experience at the motel which kind of frustrated me, and in the past would have got me quite angry. So instead of just getting angry, I got frustrated, which is fairly okay. And I expressed it.
Step in the right direction.
It was. It's definitely a step in the right direction. And I expressed it fairly eloquently and pointedly, and thought after that, I hope I hadn't hurt anyone's feelings, and thought about it. No, I hadn't. And then I thought, that's a part of life that I haven't been experiencing for 2 months, is getting passionate about something and I'm really feeling strongly about it and expressing it. Got here, then experienced that thing with you. So my voice has probably changed because I definitely feel something coming back. Thank you.
Some confidence.
Confidence, fear of life loss.
Yeah, fear of life loss.
Yeah.
It's gone.
I had the confidence before.
It's gone
I just didn't
now.
know why.
It's gone now.
I would say it's
And, you know,
gone now.
the symptoms will disappear over time.
I'm recuperating.
Yes, you
I'm
are
a recovering
recuperating.
alcoholic.
You're
I stopped smoking 22 years ago.
Really? Good
Yes.
for you.
Had to do it for I was adopting. We were adopting a child. I didn't want her to ever see me with a cigarette. Yeah.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, I just wanted to comment to point out that business, which I spoke about with myself, and I have spoken about that that childhood experience and the power of it often in meetings. And actually, that particular experience, the experience of having a vivid recollection of some childhood experience that in a context where you recognize the fact that you are the same then as you are now. That's been very helpful to a surprisingly large number of people in this community.
I noticed that on the podcast.
Yeah.
It was very helpful for me at the outset about, I guess it's 10 days ago or so, 12 days. That was my first glimpse of myself was by taking those words and running with it. And then it was a couple of days later I experienced that sensation of the eyes turning inside out kind of thing. It was very strange. Very strange, yeah. Good. Thank you.
I'm very glad you showed up, Mark.
Thank you. Great to be here. Hi.
And now I've completely forgotten what the great drop of wisdom was that I was going to lay on you, so it'll just have to disappear. Hi. What's your
My name is Divyam. My name is Divyam.
Divyam?
Divyam, yes.
Vivian.
Divyam.
Divyam.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll try to remember. Divyam.
Divyam. I'm thinking it was probably around 2006, maybe a little before or maybe a little after, I'm not sure, that I went into the internet and I was clicking on YouTube, and this is the first time that I came upon you. So I think I probably listened to about 10 minutes or so, and at that particular time I thought this is pretty good. And I think what I liked the very best was the space between your words back then. And I was really captivated by the pauses. And there was just something about your delivery that I really, really liked. And inside, I felt, well, there's something about this guy. And so I obviously didn't stay with you at the time, and I went on to other things. But I think even back then, what I really, really liked was the humility that came across, and also that there wasn't any flourish, there wasn't any sugar, there wasn't any swoon, there wasn't anything overly. It was just to the point. And I really, really resonated with that. But most certainly the space in between your delivery. So, as I say, I went on to other things, and then eventually went on to Gangaji, and then as an aside to that, on to Eli. So in the past 4 years or so, then I kind of reached a point where I was beginning to feel a bit fed up or a little frustrated or irritated or something about this kind of swooniness that I was feeling. And my interest all along has always been about the heart. Now, I've never really knew what I meant by that, but somehow I had a kind of an instinct that once I found it, I would know it, you know. And so around all these people, and they're very, very nice people, but the swooniness I couldn't really take. I sort of had my fill, you know. And so I kept questioning. I thought, well, what exactly then is bhakti? And I thought, well, are all these people living or exuding bhakti? Is that what this is? And I thought, well, I don't think so, but I'm not certain. But I just knew that I wasn't into swoon, syrupy, sugary kind of expression. And so that was sort of filtering through some other stuff. In amongst there, I'm not a really strong reader. I don't read much, and I had the Papaji book, that big thick one, and so I think I got into maybe 100 or 150 pages, something like that, a couple of years ago, and so then I decided to take that out again. This is about a year and a half ago. To maybe get into it again. But it was around the time that I had cataract surgery, and it was just sort of overlapping a little bit, where I became so enthralled with my sight after having the surgery that everything I was looking at was really quite wonderful. And so this one day, the Papaji book was turned upside down on my table, and I had the intention of reading it half-heartedly, and but at the same time I was captivated by what I was looking at, different things, and I was so captivated by this tree that I was looking at for a period of time. And the strangest thing happened was that as I was looking at this tree, then I just happened to sort of glance down towards the book on the table, and I felt this weight in my chest that it was so cumbersome to have to read such a thick book. And in that, almost like a nanosecond, I just put my eyes back to the tree. And when that happened, it was as if there was another person in the room that said, "Stop." It was almost as if it was quite audible, as if someone was there saying it. And in that moment, when I heard this "stop," then everything fell from me, in the sense of I've never read anything since. I never did pick up the book. There's nothing. There was no interest in reaching for a book, reaching for a tape, reaching for anything. And the desire isn't there, the grasping isn't there, the saliva isn't there, the wanting, And so that's been about a year and a half that I haven't felt the need to do that. And there's kind of also a feeling of, I've never really been going from one teacher to another or anything like that. I've just been pretty steady with one person for a period of time. But it almost feels as if I don't want any teachers, I don't want any books, I don't want any tapes, I don't want anything. It just seems that it's just all kind of, that portion at least has stopped. And even when we were to read these couple of articles before we came to the retreat, it felt cumbersome. I thought, oh no, but I did read them, but it was hard to do it because it was as if going against the grain, something like that. And so sort of in around all that, then I went into the internet again, and then I was clicking on a couple of things, and I thought, oh yeah, John Sherman, that's right. I liked that guy back then. So then I listened to a couple of things, and I thought, oh, good. There's no swoon, there's no syrup, there's no anything. And the humility is still there. And so next thing I knew, I signed up. And and yet it's kind of contradictory, because here I am, I've signed up for it, and yet at the same time, there's a huge chunk of me that just doesn't want to seek, doesn't want to do anything anymore, And so I did try that, looking at myself. I think it was back in June or July somewhere. And the first time I did it, it felt as if in my chest it was like a bullseye. It had a bullseye feeling to it. It's sort of like a target. And then after that, then it felt like I wanted to do it again. So I know that I've done it twice. I may have done it 3 times, but I haven't done it since. But so that's where I am with this. So I guess indirectly I'm here with you because the bottom line is that I got so very tired of being around people who were quite swoony, or their expression, and yet even though they're very, very nice people, I just couldn't, it's just not part of my makeup, I suppose, you know. And then, as I say, that Papaji thing happened, or that stop happened about 1.5 years ago, and then, as I say, my main interest always has, well, as far as I can remember, has always been about the heart. And so I believe it was around the end of February, first part of March, I had just gotten into bed, and I just don't really know how to explain this or how to describe it. I had just gotten into bed, and I hadn't done anything because I don't meditate, I don't pray, I don't do anything. And it's just, things just happen, you know, they just happen. Just, you know, throughout my life, just these moments, these things happen, just like stop happened. So that's the way it is. So I had just gotten into bed, and then there is this this unbelievable love that came across my chest. It was just so, I just can't describe it. And it flooded my body it just flooded, and it was there for 3 weeks. And when it was happening, then I realized that this was the heart that that I've been chasing or looking for or whatever. And while that was happening for those 3 weeks, there wasn't, if you think of a cup that's so full to the rim that you can't fit anything in, so I couldn't fit in hatred or fear or self-doubt. I couldn't fit in anything that wasn't love. It was so total with love that it was whatever it wanted me to do, I would do, and even if I never had experience in doing whatever it wanted. It's very hard to explain. It's very hard. It's I don't know if I just don't know if they're connected with that stop, because the stop was for 3 weeks, and prior to that happening, I had already signed up. I had already paid to go to Eli's class. I had already paid to go to a weekend retreat with Gangaji, and I had already paid for the plane fare. So it was already set in motion. And that happened the first week of August, and then their stuff was happening at the end of August. But when that stop happened, I didn't want to go to either one of them. I just didn't want to. But because it was all set in motion, then I showed up to those events. I could say that my body was there, but really I wasn't, because my heart wasn't there. I just was there in body only. And again, I don't know if that's connected in any way at all with this other experience that happened, you know, these past few months in relation to my heart. I wish I could. I can't really explain it. I can't describe it. It's just that I think, say by nature, just generally speaking, I would say that I tend to be a giving person, or, you know, kind in nature. But this kind of love that happened was wasn't in that realm. It wasn't in the realm of kindness or anything like that. It was just so, it was the kind where if all the leaders in all the countries around the world, if all the leaders lived that, there would be no need for a war, guns, whatever. There just wouldn't be, because it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible when that is actually lived. It's absolutely impossible for fear and doubt and hatred and resentment and all the others, anything, to ever, it just can't fit in there. It's just total love. It's just total. So, so as I say, it lasted 3 weeks and it's gone and so on. But through it all, I'm here, and that's a surprise to me. But there is a sense about you that you're the end of the road. You know, you're the end of the journey for me. You know, it's that kind of a feeling.
Well, you know, the thing that's most salient and most significant about for example, do you know about my history with Gangaji and Papaji?
A little bit.
I was very close to Gangaji, and by the way, the book The Truth Is played a big role with me at one time when I was interested in self-inquiry, and that book came, and I was still in prison, and people would send me whatever was, tapes, books, all kinds of stuff. and I always felt an affinity with Papaji. Papaji was a bomber and so was I, and so forth. So I had some fellow feeling there. And when the book came in, I immediately picked it up and went to find what he had to say about self-inquiry, because that's all I was really interested in. That I think there might even be a chapter which the heading is self-inquiry. Anyway, I found the beginning of the self-inquiry thing, and I started reading, and I stopped when I had gone all the way through that thick book, back to the beginning, and got back to where I started. Mm-hmm. And I just read it in one sitting like that. I just say that to point out that I've had some considerably wild experiences, and experiences not so far from what you've related here. The most salient and the most significant thing about those things, the experience of stopping, it has nothing to do with their authenticity or anything like that. Of course they're authentic, no question about it. But the most salient thing about them is that there was a time when they weren't here, and then there was a time when they were here, and then there was a time when they weren't here. The same with the overwhelming love, which sounds, the description of it sounds like what is referred to as bhakti, as you mentioned, which is itself a state that is produced by strenuous spiritual practice over a period of time. Mostly religious practice. But you're here, and you haven't changed. Nothing is different about you. No, I'm not talking about the body and the thoughts and so forth, but you. Love was here, love departed, you remained. An end was here, an end departed, and you remain, untouched by either of those. Always the same, the same. I can't in any way characterize those experiences and put them into a narrative that would make sense. Okay? I mean, I probably could, but it's really not worth the effort. The most important thing about them is that they were here, and now they're not, but you remain. The perception of an absence of a desire for anything doesn't necessarily denote anything. You know, there's no way of telling from whence that absence has appeared. Well, I'm sorry. I thought I was over this. I thought the rain had taken all this away. I come up to the retreat here and it affects me.
Want a glass of water?
No, I'm okay. Thank you. I would really be grateful if you would continue seeing if you cannot get the direct experience of you, without regard to the overwhelming love, without regard to the stopping. See if you cannot get the direct experience of you, which is pretty easy since you're so always here. And I'd like to hear from you. This is really interesting to me, and I'd really like to hear from you about this. But there's nothing that can stop you from touching yourself. Nothing that can stop you from the experience itself that I am speaking of is very fleeting, and it has no significance of its own. It is not the experience of heart. It's not the experience of love. It's not the experience of swooning or ecstatic bliss. It is very plain and ordinary. You are very plain and ordinary, very simple. You have almost no characteristics to you, although you can recognize the feel of you the moment you see it. You recognize it. So that's what I'd like. I'd like for you to continue seeing if you cannot get that direct taste of yourself and stay in touch with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy you came. I'm really very pleased to meet you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make just one comment in regard to this this experience of heart, or this love that filled my body. Again, I wasn't doing any practice. I just don't do any kind of practice.
I know that.
So
I know
it
that.
just happened.
I understood that,
Yeah.
And I don't, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
It still remains that the most significant characteristic of that is its transience.
Mm.
It appeared, God knows from where. It went away, God knows to where. You remain. The most significant thing is you. The one thing that all of that has in common is you. Therefore, see if you can see what you feel like. And see what happens as a result of that. You don't have to read anything. Really. You don't have to read The Fear of Life. You don't have to read any of that stuff.
Oh, thank goodness.
You may if you get energized and want to, join the cause. But you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to read anything. You don't have to remember anything. All you have to do is try with serious intent to get and if you get the direct experience, you'll know it. There's no confusing it with anything else. And then tell me what happens and how that plays out.
Okay. I know the couple of times that I did do it, it felt there is so much ease to it. There is almost like just a relaxation,
Yes,
as if just
great
being
ease,
home.
yes.
It felt as if I had come in very, 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 very close to myself, and it just felt a closeness like this.
Yeah,
And it was just there,
yeah.
and just kind of a home feeling. Yeah.
Yes, it feels like home, because it is coming home.
Yeah.
And that's the outcome of this I often speak of as coming home.
Mm.
Finding yourself not coming home, but finding yourself home.
Mm-hmm.
Safe and secure,
Mm-hmm.
and most of all, sane.
Mm. Yeah.
Most of all, sane.
Yeah.
There may be ecstatic experiences in your life that have nothing to do with the looking. Your psychology, the nature of your mind and so forth is unique, as is everyone's. And many things can occur in human minds, in human consciousness. Those things may come, they may not. They may go, they may not. You will remain. And I'm really interested in seeing how this works out.
I think the thing that I'm, looking forward to is that I really feel like I don't want any more teachers. I just want to wash the dishes. That's all that I want to do. I don't want to be on this spiritual search forever. I just want it to stop.
That's right.
I just want the whole thing just to come to a halt.
That's right.
So I can just wash the dishes and all this stuff, leave me alone.
Chop wood, carry water. It's amazing to me, actually, the actual nature of natural state of human existence is precisely that. Life itself is all that's of any real interest or significance or import. The magnificence of it, the endless variety of it, the density of it, the substance of it. That's very interesting. I love washing dishes. I really do. I really like washing dishes. I like cooking. I like all of that. And it's like somehow or other, I've said how people have stumbled on the natural state over time, and that's obviously the case. These teachings don't come from, some of them, there are charlatans everywhere. In every human endeavor, there are charlatans to be found. But the core teachings themselves clearly don't come from any neurotic impetus. They're clearly authentic. They clearly are that. There are people who are speaking from the authentic experience of natural human life. But we have not ever before found a way to actually uncover what the key was to getting access to that state, that human natural state. And now we do. And even the most authentic teachings have failed to bring us anything but simulations, kind of, for the most part. So.
And I really appreciate the fact that you speak so much about Ramana, because I think sort of on the, because of this swooniness that I was witnessing, I wanted to somehow get to back to the foundation, back to the real McCoy. And so I somehow temporarily, or maybe permanently, I don't know, I just wanted to sort of spread Papaji and Gangaji to one side. And I just wanted to go straight to Ramana, and yet, that's what it felt like at least, but I didn't really know how to do that. But
Ramana is difficult when it comes from the aspect of a spiritual seeker. You have to see Ramana as he was. He was a human being.
Yeah.
With human traits and human psychology and all of it. He was a human being. And what's happened with Ramana, and Ramana to me is a great hero. I mean, really, a great human hero. And I can't speak highly enough of it. But what's happened is, because of the circumstances in which he stumbled upon the natural state, and the circumstances in which people found out about him, there is this aura of magical thinking that has enveloped him.
Yes.
And it's very hard to see through that.
Right.
The dialogues with Ramana that are preserved in books and so forth, Ramana really had very little to say. These dialogues are all compilations where the disciples would put together things he said here, things he said there, sometimes invent a seeker for him to be responding to, and so forth.
Yes.
And they're all colored by the underlying spiritual agenda.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to reach Ramana through the.
Right. And this is why I've appreciated that you've spoken of him in this manner, because it was sort of pushing that aside as well. Just sort of get to the truth, to the bare bones of it. Yeah. So I thank you very much for for not being flowery and syrupy and sugary.
That would be hard for me.
Your humility is really quite something. It's really
Thank you so much
quite
for
tender.
coming. Where are you from? Where are you
I'm
from?
from Victoria, British Columbia.
Oh, it's been a long drive here.
Yeah.
Did you drive, fly?
No, fly. Yeah, yeah.
I hope you have a good flight back.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here and with everyone here as well. Thank you all. Yeah,
So stay in touch.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Anybody? Yeah. It's kind of a funny thing. We're going to continue doing this open mic thing in the future. But once we did it, nobody does it anymore, are they? But some folks might want to, and that's perfectly fine.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
I still smoke cigarettes, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's
Anyway,
that doesn't make you a demon.
no, just not very bright. Anyway,
Your words.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was wondering if you could go into a little more detail on the actual seeing, because you've mentioned it's kind of fleeting, and I could only compare it to it's seeing a rabbit run across the road when you're on the freeway.
Yeah, right, like that, right, in the dark.
Exactly.
In the headlights, boom.
Exactly. Yeah, that's about what it felt like. Although it was vivid.
Yeah.
Yeah, more vivid than a rabbit on the road, but I was
And recognizable. If it's you, it's recognizable.
yeah. But also, if you could go into a little more detail on, and if there's ever any more to it than that,
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
And that's basically, it's just that simple.
That's why I say don't fetishize the look.
No, yeah,
And you can expect, and I don't know whether this is universally the case, but I suspect it probably is. You can expect that without regard to the frequency, right,
right.
that you'll do it again and again.
Yeah.
I used to say to people when I was still uncertain of what it was that I was talking about, well, that's just a funny thing. But that lasted a long time, 12 years that lasted. I feel quite grateful that that uncertainty stayed with me, by the way. That was a great gift, that uncertainty about what I was saying.
It kept you looking?
It's kept me looking for a way to say it, yeah. But it appears that I used to say to people, because I knew that to be the case, and because I don't want anybody to take on some burden, right? We have enough burdens, and looking is not a burden. And if it becomes a burden, then you're doing it wrong, right? So I used to say to people, do it whenever it occurs to you to do so. Don't worry about it. Just whenever it occurs to you to do so. Knowing at the time that if it occurred, it would be because it occurred, right? Because it was just the case that looking was going on. And I don't say that anymore because I now have seen from the experience of many now that is a sign that is pretty consistently the case. Sometimes it's not very often. Sometimes it's very often, like my friend Mark, the guy that I spoke about the other day, he was doing it all the time. Yeah. He's doing it all the time.
Right.
Others not so much, but it seems to be consistent that once you get it once, you're going to keep looking. It may be that you never actually get that experiential confirmation again, the rabbit again, but you'll still keep looking.
Right.
Which is why it kind of is a confirming sign, because you don't get anything from it. Why would you do it?
Exactly. Yep. Good point.
So you wanted me to say something about the feel of it?
Well, if you would, I mean, if you can, I mean, it's hard to describe.
I can't. See, here's the thing. And consider this. I'm probably repeating myself, but I have so little to say, people, that you're just going to have to bear with me because I just repeat myself. And I think repetition sometimes is helpful. Consider this. Your mind, your life, your mind, your life, same thing to me. Your mind is merrily going along, worrying about this, worrying about that, wanting this, not wanting that, evaluating this, trying to go to sleep, wish you were doing something else, all that's going on. And the focus of your attention is called to all of those things as they occur. Something new appears, boom, there goes your attention there. Boom, there goes your attention there. And without any control over it. It's just naturally called to arising phenomena. It's called to movement and light and sound and so forth.
And to neurosis.
Yeah, right, to neurosis. It loves neurosis. And the thing to see about that is that that's its purpose. Its purpose is not to look at you. Its purpose is to experience the unfolding of existence within your life and to look at the things that are interesting and so forth and so on. That's its purpose. Its purpose is to be outward directed, serving the purpose of giving you the experience of existence in your life. That variegated, endless churning of stuff. Right? So just to try to turn it away from that is a very unnatural act. It really is. It's unnatural. It's not something that you would do ordinarily because that's not what attention has appeared for the purpose of it. Purpose of it is look outward. Always outward, never inward. Why would it look at you? You don't make any noise, you don't move, you don't do anything.
It's kind of dark in there anyway.
What's the point? And it's unnatural, and that's the reason why. And by the way, as an aside, I often recommend if you want to do something that is kind of therapeutic and serves the whole project of looking, undertake simple mindfulness meditation. The purpose of mindfulness meditation has nothing to do with making your neuroses go away or making life better or anything of the kind. It's entirely a practical practice that strengthens your control over the beam of your attention, that acquaints you much more directly and intelligently with the actual nature of the way the mind operates as you're doing that, and so forth and so on. And it strengthens your control over attention. It deepens your understanding of psychology, of your own psychology, without it being like terminology, right?
Or
just
religious,
the direct,
right, religious, just to stop some of the barrage of thoughts,
right,
that can get in the way of.
Right. You learn that first of all, you learn how easily you are distracted. If you do the mindfulness meditation, I recommend that it consists in watching and counting breath. I remember when I first started it, and I first got it from the Buddhist many, many years ago. When I first started it, I couldn't get to 2 without being distracted, much less 10. And that's why the instruction includes the expectation of that, and that's okay. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But as time goes on, you get much more.
You get to 3.
You can get to 3. I can get a little higher than that now. But so if you're going to do something, if you want to do something, do that. Simple mindfulness meditation. Nothing spiritual about it. It's entirely psychological, and it's entirely instructive and kind of like lifting weights for your beam of your attention. You can lift weights without going to the yoga center. So consider all that, right? That's the way the mind operates. That's just the way it is. It's afflicted with a vast array of neurotic points of view that have come into being as symptoms of this fear of life. And it has this one thing that we can do, which is to determine, if we don't always do it, but we can do, which is to decide where to put attention. Right? And the purpose of this entire suggestion of looking at yourself is to perform an extremely unnatural act and move attention away from its natural habitat,
Right.
which is outward.
Right.
Okay? And add to that the fact that there's nothing much to you. Right? You don't have color, you don't have sound, you don't
Yes.
move. There's nothing exciting there. It's just you, plain old you. So, for all of those reasons, it is to be expected that the actual moment of contact with the reality of your nature will be really fleeting. If you do the mindfulness meditation and try to count to 10, you'll see how easily distracted attention is in the first place,
Right.
much less from doing something as unsatisfying and unnatural as turning inward.
Right.
Okay? So it's just the case that it's very fleeting. And there's nothing gotten from it. There's no satisfaction that comes from it. There's no gratification that comes from it. It's just, there can be, when you become accustomed to it, there can be a kind of I don't even know how, it's kind of like a sigh, like a relief, a sigh of relief that just is very...
Which is almost as fleeting.
Right, just like that, right? Just like that.
Yeah. That's very helpful.
Yeah. And it's really important, you know, and we are so, whether we're spiritual or not spiritual, we are so indoctrinated into the idea that we're trying to get something right here and now that will give me what I want.
And we're going to find it outside of ourselves.
And we're going to find it outside of
Right.
ourselves. And when we turn inward, well, we never turn inward.
That kind of freaks us out a little bit for a second because it's like you say, it goes against the grain.
Right.
It's very powerful.
Right.
I thank you for sharing it. I'm really.
I can't do anything else.
I feel blessed
Go
to be here.
figure.
Thank you very much.
You're very
It's
welcome.
been a pleasure.
It's good to meet you.
You too.
Jade. Oh, it's good to see you.
I just want to I just want to update a little bit. Like I'm a little bummed. I can't get excited like Eva about that maybe I have less fear than I did 24 hours ago, because like I would love to come up here and be excited and report that, but it's just I just can't afford that kind of like false intensity or false hope, because it's just been too many times of, you know, having experiences and then having them go away. Or like I'd see you on Sunday in Santa Monica and it would be easier to look at myself for a couple of days and I'd be like, yeah, the end is near and this is so easy now. And then I get busy and I just don't look at myself as much. So,
you see that doesn't matter, right?
that I'm just going to keep plugging away. I mean, if that's what you mean by it doesn't matter.
Let me tell you something, okay? How long have we known each other?
It's just not.
Huh? How long?
I think I met you in 2003 or 4.
Long time.
Yeah. I mean, it was before you were saying this stuff. But.
A long time. If you could sit where I'm sitting and have seen you and known you for all that time and see you now, you wouldn't for a second fail to see what's happened to you. You've changed. You've changed enormously. I can't catalog and don't want to catalog the characteristics that I'm speaking about, but you've changed. Fear's gone from you. It's been gone from you for some time. The symptoms are disappearing from you. That's really clear. And excitement and exaltation are entirely optional and characteristics of the psychology of the individual. You're different. You're soft. You didn't used to be soft. Now you're soft.
It's just because I'm kind of stress free right now this week.
And you flew here from where? On the United States Airways and stuff?
I got patted down too for bringing a homeopathic.
Yeah. So,
I mean, so I went to the Coffee Connection at the break, and these two, Fred and Johan, two local old men, like
a lot of local old men around here.
came up and they're like, you were just full of life. I had to come over and talk to you. And I was like, not buying it. I just
See, they see it. They see what I see. I mean, I'm really serious.
I know. I was going to say maybe it's.
I'm not trying to,
Right.
I'm really serious. And Carla, am I lying?
We were just talking about. I was telling him what I
Yeah.
saw.
It's amazing. You're beautiful. I mean, you've always been beautiful, but you get more beautiful every time I see you.
Every time. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
You know, what you're experiencing, I'm convinced, are simply the remnants of the symptoms, the remnants of the effects. And part of those effects are the need to deny and to refuse to be taken by something, because that's scary. But you don't have to be taken by this. You are this. I was so happy that you signed up for the retreat.
I'm not really looking at myself right now.
No, but everybody else is.
But it is easier to look at myself in here than even just when I, go home.
Yes, I know.
Down the
But
street.
I know that, but the looking doesn't matter. The looking is a means to an end. The fact that the looking goes away is a sign that it's doing its work. The looking is a means to an end. The purpose of attention is to experience existence, not to look at you.
Not to what?
Look at you. That's your window on reality and on existence. It'll stop. It's not going. The looking won't go on forever.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm not. I'm not at that same point like Travis. He describes it really well of when he just didn't need to look anymore. It's just not. I know it's not the same for me right now.
It's all idiosyncratic, really. There's no comparison between two people, two courses of recovery, and I am. You're fine. You're doing fine.
I just want to tell you, I've had some recent heartbreak in my life because my 18-year-old daughter left when she was 17, but she left and to go live with her dad, who, her narcissistic psycho dad, and cause I'm not trying to say anything PC, and so when that pain comes up, I could use all the spiritual tools that I have. I could just see that it's a sensation and it's going to go. I could do that. And I just don't have the will to like, I just don't have the will to do a practice. I just don't.
And did you do that in the past? Processes to deal with those kind of arisings? Then that's a sign. That's a confirming sign. There's no need to get rid of that. It doesn't harm you.
Well, no, but even just to look at it, or even to see,
matter.
you know,
it doesn't matter. The urge to try to do the processes of, like, for example, watching it and seeing it disappear and all of that stuff.
or seeing that it's me and
Seeing it you and all that, that's all beside the point. It's your life. It's the content of your life. It doesn't need to be dismissed. It doesn't need to be understood. It doesn't need to be kept. Nothing needs to be done about it.
And I'm just not any more skillful. Like, I'd like to just try and control it and make her come home and buy her flights and call her every day, you know, and I'm just not, I don't have any more, everybody gives me advice. I just don't have any more skill around it or anything. I don't have any more, I mean, I could say, like, during this last talk time, you know, I had this glimpse of like, yeah, this is just what is, but I just can't go there. I can't even say this is what is, and now I'm okay with what it, like, I just don't know.
I have never suggested, and I never will suggest, that you deploy any kind of tactics or techniques or strategies to minimize, get rid of, or in any way be able to handle arising experience. That's not what I'm about. This experience is big and powerful, and it comes and it goes, and you remain. And there's no, you said you don't feel guilt anymore. Is that what you said?
No.
You didn't say that?
Probably somebody heard what I said. Skilled, yeah.
Skills, oh, okay.
No, I still feel guilt. Yeah. Like if I could have done it better, maybe she wouldn't have left.
And that's what I'm speaking of when I say that there are these remnants, these symptomatic remnants of the effects of the disease itself. They will pass. But what is also the case is that all of the psychological neurotic defenses that you have deployed in the past to help you get through these things are disappearing. So you're stuck with it, raw.
Yeah.
Life, raw. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
this is human. You know, this is a human thing, for God's sake. We're not gods that stand above and apart from and indifferent to, you know, these emotional events. This is human.
I thought all the drama was like gone, you know.
Human life can be pretty dramatic. Really. Want tissue? Thank you. It's not uncommon when recovering from an infectious disease for the recovery process to be really rocky. That's a fact of recovery from disease. It's no different here. Things are happening that used to be handled. They aren't being handled anymore. Human life is happening, and nothing's handling it. Out of control. But you're the same. You're still here. You haven't changed. You haven't been harmed by it. You haven't been helped by it. You are as you have always been.
And when I want to check to see if that's the case, like, sometimes I don't only look at, like, I look at just a bunch, I go to a bunch of different memory, like one after the other, like, yeah, that shitty thing happened, and yeah, I was still there then. Like, and I just go, like, it's more than one. It's not just like the one big experience of walking out of Thelma and Louise, it's like, it's like.
Or Winchester 73.
It's like losing big experiences or just any kind of, it's like, yeah, I'm still there. It takes me a second, and I use different experiences, and then that was just something else I was going to run by you.
Yeah, and the process is ongoing. I can see that. Really, it's really obvious that the recovery is underway, and it might be painful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is painful. Things are occurring that you used to be able to handle effectively that you can't handle anymore, because the mechanisms that were in place to do that are gone. They're just disappearing.
Well, they're there. It's just just don't have the willingness, because I just only want to do something I know is going to help me, which is to look at myself.
That's right, and you know it is.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, you have changed. You really have.
I thought I was the same. I thought that was the whole thing. Well, so have you.
So have I,
Yeah.
That's right. Although, actually, I am the same. But this life has changed. This person has changed. The personality has changed. That whole face of me has changed. It's different now. And it's different for you. You remain the same. But Jade, she's a whole different creature.
Okay.
Whom I love. And I'm very happy to see you. Okay? Stay in touch. Of course you will.
It's more like, stop emailing me so much.
I'd never say that. But I did receive your email, and I think there's some useful stuff in there, and I'll talk to you more about it over time. And I really would like to talk to Giles maybe, and about the therapeutic stuff. Whatever. Oh no, I mean the publicity stuff. We'll talk about that and handle that. His help will be very welcome, as is yours, as is everybody's. We need everybody. Okay.
This is not a spiritual thing. It's a cultural thing. It's like an impulse. But I really would, like, if you don't mind, I'd like to just bow.
Like to what?
Can I just bow? Like, bow to you? Like, stop. No, I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
No. Okay, well, can I give you a hug?
If I have the decision, don't do that.
No, but it's like an equal thing. It's not a, like...
I'll bow to you. How about that? Okay? I'll bow to you.
Yeah.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Okay, we're done now. Got 2 minutes. I don't have anything to say that takes 2 minutes. Nothing I have to say ever takes 2 minutes. But except that I love you all, and I continue to be filled with gratitude that this life has come to me, which includes you. Okay? See you tomorrow.